Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Dramaturgy Podcast. In this episode, I am going to be covering Sweet Home Season 3. I know a lot of you are like, why? Because if you've ever seen my review of Season 2, you know that I was not a fan of Season 2. So, really, I shouldn't be covering this. But, I think that sometimes you just want to talk about things. Even when you're not a fan of it, you just want to talk about why you're not a fan of it, right? And I know I probably mentioned in season 2 that they shouldn't make a season 3, and I probably won't watch it if it comes out. But they managed to get me. I was curious and I just wanted to know, how this would end. I was also watching for the most part for Idoyon, who I really, really love. And so yeah, I checked it out and I have a few things to say about it. For those who don't know, Sweet Home basically is following this world where people are turning into monsters. Nobody knows why. Our protagonist Hyunsu is one of these people that turns into the monsters. But what makes him special is that he is still able to retain some of his consciousness. He's still able to be himself to an extent, and that makes him very useful. And we get to basically see the world from his point of view for the most part. There is an ensemble cast, but I would say that the protagonist in this case is Hyunsu. Although I feel like a lot of people don't watch it especially for him. Maybe that's just me, but there's so much going on that I think that when season 1 first aired, it was a very good premise that he had going on, and it just went bad from there on. Like, it kept going downhill from there on. And I think that's partly because it finished up to where the webtoon ends in season 1, and so I think the writers had to come up with their own plot, and they did some changes that I would say were not very good. And that's probably season 2 and season 3 and what it looks like. But anyways, in this episode, it's season 3. I'm going to be talking strictly about season 2. I cover in a different episode, so you can check that out. So, Song Kang plays Cha Yeon-soo in this. Lee Jin-wook plays Pyeong Sang-wook, who is another special infectee that also is able to, I guess, still be himself to an extent, and is what I would consider the main villain, if you can call him that, of season 3. Although, again, it's hard to call him the main villain because there's just so many different plots that is going on that it's hard to know what the story is supposed to be in season 3. What is the main plot of season 3? But I would say he's the main villain of season 3. We have Idoyon that is playing Eun Hyuk, who is someone we last saw in season 1, and I mean we saw him and his butt at the end of season 2. And so he's someone I've been really looking forward to seeing again, because he was kind of the brains in season 1. He was, I think I would say, my protagonist, and there's probably a word for his character, deuteragonist or something like that. There's he is the most important character, I would say, after the main lead and the protagonist, right? And so I was really happy to see him in this new season. But yeah, moving on, Ishi Young plays Seo Gyung, who is the partner of Pyeong Sang-wook. Seo Gyung is, I would say, one of the least annoying characters in this. She's the one that seems almost human, and really motives are the clearest to me, I would say. She is really strong, and she's a kind of character that is not written often. I would say she's very strong, and honestly, Ishi Young just plays her so well, and so really pleasant to watch. And then last but not least, in the cast of main roles is Gomin Shi, who is playing Eun Yu. Eun Yu is Eun Hyuk's little sister, and she is, I would say, my favorite character in this whole thing, just because she's quite level-headed, especially given what has happened, and coming into how she has grown from season 1. I think that she's the most impressive to an extent, for a lot of reasons, and she's kind of the glue for a lot of the characters. She does not give up on people, and she's just she's grown so much from season 1. It's quite amazing, actually. That's, I would say, one of the good things about season 2 and season 3 that they do well. It's her character and her character arc, and seeing her grow as a person in the way that some people are already developed by season 1, even like from the beginning, and some people, like, they get worse as like the seasons pass, right? So yeah, she is like my favorite character, and yeah, Gominshi plays her very, very well. Huge fan of the actress too. But yeah, I will stop there. That's really our main cast. There are a few other people, of course, but again, it has such a huge ensemble cast that it keeps growing every season. Season 2 was the worst, I would say. Season 1 was kind of good, in that, like, you kind of had a core ensemble cast by the end of season 1, and you're like, okay, these are the people I'm gonna follow, into season 2 and season 3, and then season 2 comes and it's just a host of new people. Makes sense to an extent, but I feel like they really focus too much on those people that it made no sense for the old general idea. But again, I mean, that's what happens when you don't have any material left to work with. And you're not a very good writer, or you don't have very good writers on your team. And I don't know why this is a struggle for just like TV in general, is that, like, it seems like no matter what I watch, it's very difficult to have like good writing, like to have good plot. And I don't know if it's like they're not paying writers, they don't think they're important, and so maybe to an extent they aren't, because it seems like people watch anything. Case in point, me watching this, knowing that like it will probably be trashy, and I still watch it because, again, it has all the people I love, and it's like just a continuation of season 1, season 2, and I was like, I gotta check out. I just close this chapter of my life, So I think they don't need writers, and to an extent, I guess they don't. But yeah, let's get right into my review. I think that, again, the first thing that I'm gonna talk about that is like the main overarching issue that I think suffers in season 2 and also comes into season 3 because they've changed the premise of the story, is the idea of the monsters and how people monsterize, how people become monsters, how they turn into this creature. Why is it this person but not the other person? In season 2 they introduced the idea that actually someone can be made to be a monster. That is, you can like inject someone with something and it will turn them into a monster. This really ruined, I would say, the old franchise and what it could be, because then it does not leave it up to luck. It does not leave it up to maybe personality or just sheer divine intervention from something, I don't know, right? And instead turns into a sci-fi kind of drama, which we've seen a billion. Like this is very common, and so I would have liked if they had kept it as a like kind of psychological thing, which they don't, right? Season 3 continues on that path, and I mean, there's a part where the doctor is talking about the last like serum that they can use, I think, to create a monster or something like that, right? And so it continues on that idea, and I was again really sad to see that. I really thought that they should have maybe disproved that in season 3 and gone back to the original premise of season 1, of that like it's just a toss-up of who becomes a monster, right? Because then it kind of makes it more interesting that today you can be okay, fine, and if something changes in your psyche, in your how you feel and everything, you could turn into a monster. It also leaves them in a very vulnerable place, and I guess forces people to be a little kinder to one another, because you don't know when it can be you, right? I mean, this is a very key issue in like society, of that like people will like ignore, they have like apathy when it's not them and everything, until they realize that like this is going to affect you someday. For example, like elderly rights, right? Like geriatric and stuff like that. People never pay attention to this because I guess a lot of us don't think about the fact that we will grow old one day, but like this is something that will affect everybody, and it's something like we should all work to make better, so that when we do get there, when it's our time, we have all that laid out and ready for us. And so I wish that they had kept that premise, and that would have, I think, been a really, really good plot to just keep continuing and growing and trying to see how people evolved, given that one fact. Because I mean, I find it interesting that at the end of season 3 we find out that Unyu also becomes infected, like she monsterizes, right? And again, this is a shock to me because for some reason Unyu is never the one that I would have assumed would have this thing, and for that to happen to her was very interesting, but also kind of, again, it goes back to the idea that it can happen to anyone, right? One fact that I did like about season 3 is the fact that they made it so that Cha Hyun-soo is able to maybe bring back people that have been monsterized. One thing that they always seem to like place emphasis on in this drama is that a lot of these infectees, these are people, like you see moments where like the monsters show weakness of some sort that makes you realize that somebody is still in there to an extent, right? And so I really like the fact that they use Cha Hyun-soo, you know, the scene where he's trying to bring back So Hye-kyung when So Hye-kyung becomes a monster, right? It shows that like people can be changed back, right, when they turn into monsters, right? And so I find that very interesting, and I wish that that was like the part that they kind of put like Cha Hyun-soo's character like go on, like that is something he like goes around doing, trying to like bring back monsters, right? Trying to, because again, they make it seem like it's psychological. You see Cha Hyun-soo go into her mind and is trying to pull her out from this world that she's kind of been stuck at, right? And I wish that that was kind of what they just continue doing, and I feel like that's just a good premise to make a show on. Like if they want to do a season 4, season 5, that is a good like thing that like Chance who just goes around and meets different monsters and kind of figures out like what their weaknesses and what turned them into monsters and brings them back. I feel like that would just be fantastic, right? Instead it kind of like just they're just juggling a bunch of things, like it's a bunch of plot lines just like colliding into one another, and so it's just a one-off moment that he brings Son Hye-kyung back, and like that's just it, right? Which is a shame. But yeah, that's the first part. The second part, and just again on Cha Hyun-soo's character, I have to say that I am very glad that, you know, we don't see the moping Cha Hyun-soo for a lot of like season 3. I feel like maybe the writers knew how like annoyed people were at like Cha Hyun-soo's character in season 2. Again, I get the fact that like he, you know, is lost his parent, like he wants to commit suicide from like season 1, and so that's what is like his character is built on. I get that, but honestly, if I had to see that for the whole of season 3, I would have been so pissed. And I'm just glad like we had a like the monster version of Cha Hyun-soo, the one with the blue eyes, taking like lead for a lot of the episodes, because like he's snarky, he's sarcastic, like he knows how to use his abilities and everything, and that was just like pleasant. And the good thing here, like, is not too different for Cha Hyun-soo himself. For example, like you see the moment where he can't kill Inu because like Cha Hyun-soo is still like kind of controlling him in some way, and he recognizes that feeling, like the feelings that Cha Hyun-soo has for her. And so I really like that they didn't make him like just annoying to watch, and so it made it kind of refreshing. So in a way, like season 3 is a lot better than season 2. It's still not like amazing, but it's a lot better than season 2. So yeah, that's point number 2 that is like I'm glad for. The third point I want to mention is a huge point, because this is something that they like introduced season 2 and they bring into season 3, and it kind of fell flat. Like I could not tell the reason why it existed. This idea of neo-humans that like Uniok is part of. For the life of me, I couldn't understand why this was a necessary addition, right? It didn't seem like there was a reason for them to exist. It seemed like just something that they wanted to like introduce, but like it didn't have a point, right? So you find out that Uniok has been gestating this whole time, you know, getting like reborn into this creature called the neo-human that's able to in a way communicate with the already infected like monsters, and so they can kind of follow his instructions, and so when they first introduced it, I remember cringing a little bit when like Uniok is telling that like military soldier about this like new human, and I'm like, that makes no sense, like why now and everything, because it just seemed like every other like I don't know, like sci-fi fantasy that introduces like this new creature, and I get like, why is it like you already have so many different ideas you can like use? Why introduce a new concept, especially given that there's like they don't exist for any reason, right? Like they can't change. It seems like they're just like human, but just a little stronger than special effects is, and it seems like a cop out kind of like maybe they didn't want to add like CGI or something. I don't know what it was. but it seems like a cop out. Yeah, like they are faster, they are all this. Like you see the scene where Yoon is fighting with Chang Hyun, and you're like, I guess maybe, but like it just didn't make any sense to me because again, it's so convenient that it's like brings the angst because, for example, like Yoon forgot all about his feelings for Yoon, like the fact that that's his sister. He knows that that's his sister, but like the feelings that came with that, right, with the memories are gone, right, and it's so convenient. Adds a little angst and adds an element of like, oh, Yoon has to like try and get him back and everything, and it's like a little unnecessary. I felt like she'd waited for so long that I feel like that was not the way to go about that. And it's weird because I feel like he wasn't as emotionless with Chaeyoung-soo. It felt like he was glad to see Chaeyoung-soo, right? And it felt like he was faking it to the whole time. And also, if he like obviously has no feelings, they're basically psychopaths is what they are saying, right? If he has no feelings, why is it like it took them like 2 days and it seemed like he was having feelings again? And I'm like, okay, so they do have feelings. It's just like not like in tune with them, right? It's not like they have no like emotions. It's just that he's not willing to let himself feel, because I could tell like at the end, when we find out that Yoon is turning into a monster, he shows a little feeling, and he's remembering all the things she said like an episode ago. So like I was like, this is kind of unnecessary, right? And just to add to the new human aspect again, like they mentioned that the fact that these people are extremely like powerful and everything, and to an extent that's why Pyong Sang-wook is a little, I guess, scared of them to an extent. I guess that's some of the reasons why he wants to change into his daughter's body and all that good stuff, right? But at the same time, it doesn't seem like they are that powerful, right? Because there's a scene where you see like 3 of them come to the stadium and they're asking for their king, and they're like zombies just like staying there and like, we want our king, and like Pyong Sang-wook comes back and like just slashes them that quickly, and I'm like, so what exactly is their purpose then, right? Because those ones were human, like not human, but they were neo-human, right? And it seemed like they killed them so easily. So I'm not sure what those 3, like why were those 3 different from somewhere like New York, So I don't know. It was just again off, unnecessary, and I wasn't vibing with it. So yeah, that's the third point I wanted to mention, that like I wish that they had like just taken that whole thing out. I don't know how they would have reintroduced Yoon's character, honestly, but honestly I did not need it to be anything special. They could have found a better way to do that. But yeah, that's the third point I wanted to mention. The fourth point is just like a little like this, that like this is Netflix and I can tell the CGI is trash. Like season 1 was amazing, like the CGI was so good. Season 2 was also whatever, but season 3 too was really really bad. Like even the like Chaeyoung-soo's arm, like you could tell it was like so CGI, like it wasn't like fitting every time he moved. Like it was clearly like no budget in this, and like I don't know, money grab, like, and I don't know why they do this, honestly. You have something good that you could keep making shows about for years and you just mess it up. I don't know. CGI was ugly, the monsters, some of them were unnecessarily grotesque. um and I mean I'm fine with that, but if they're gonna do that, they should have made it look good, right? And it all just looked like, I don't know, I could have done that. I mean I couldn't, but like, you know what I mean. So yeah, that was another issue I had with this. Fifth issue, I would say that like just getting to the end of the drama, I feel like the climax wasn't there again, because they'd introduced this new human. I thought that would be like the fight then with Pyong Sang-wook, and that would like be where the fight would be, and like it just felt like I couldn't tell what the point was. At the end again, you see Yoon is back with them, and I'm like, this whole thing just doesn't make any sense. Like I was really sad about it. Like, but I guess they wanted to tie everything together. But honestly, it was so badly done that I just don't know what they were going for. And honestly, like bad writing is it should be a good enough reason to be fired from your job. Like I don't know. It's I don't know. It's just odd. Another point I want to talk about that I really liked was actually the scene with Soyeon and her daughter. It's a shame that they could not like, make that an actual like continuous plot point. I would have liked to see them together, you know. It's a shame that they had to kill off that character So Young, but she was like one of the best characters in that whole show, right? Her goal was clear. She loved her daughter, even though she was scared of what her daughter could do. And I would have really liked to see her nurture her daughter, because her daughter really was nurturable. She lacked love and all that, but she was nurturable, and it's a shame that it was only used, like she was only used as a plot point for Pesanguk. It's a real shame, and I was really sad that they went that road. That's another thing that they failed on, in my opinion. But yeah, I think that for me, like I would give this drama maybe like a 5 out of 10, in the sense that like I gave season 2 like maybe a 2 out of 10. So I think that season 3 is actually better than season like 2, in that it kept me a little more entertained than season 2, where I was just annoyed. And maybe because like season 2 introduced, just messed up season 1 and introduced a bunch of rubbish, you know, I was really hateful about season 2. But like season 3, I had gotten used to the rubbish, I guess. And so like they could not disappoint me further in an like in a way, right? And so yeah, it was okay. It wasn't the best, but it was okay. Anyway, that's it for this episode. I wouldn't recommend this drama, not really, but again, it's entertaining enough that like you can check it out if you want. Let me know what you think. I'm at u/dramasology on Reddit. And yeah, that's it for this episode. Thank you guys so much for listening. I hope you guys have a lovely day. Bye.